What's up, YouTube? This is Miles B. Thank you for waiting, and I also apologize for the wait because there's been a lot going on just with balancing children, balancing family, balancing lots of different things going on. So when I have the opportunity to share a video, I want to take advantage of it. So I have the opportunity, and that's why I am sharing with you today. So really quick, I wanted to share with you a couple subjects that's been on my heart. And the first one is about the LGBT movement. The Lord spoke to me clear as day while I was asleep. And this is usually when he wakes me up and he speaks a word to me. And it was pride in public equals shame in secret. Pride in public equals shame in secret. And I asked the guy, I was like, okay, pride in public equals shame in secret, because I was contemplating just the LGBT movement and the different ways that the techniques of, indoctrination have happened, and they're targeting the children, the next generation. And you can see it in just the way that the mindset of just a casual, complicit, what's wrong with being gender neutral, what's wrong with being homosexual, these things, as if they really don't understand or grasp or know the detriment of it, because it's being constantly presented in such a way. And so the Lord was showing me that the prime agenda, the end goal, the end game, and you can look this up, you can research it yourself for those who have been in the LGBT movement. The end game of the LGBT movement is to do away with the church. Period. Point blank, period. Is to do away with the church. And the reason why is it reminds them of their shame. It reminds them of their love for sin, to be honest. And this is what we have to do as believers. The first thing we have to do is to be honest and to acknowledge that we have sinned, that we have fallen short, and that we need Jesus Christ. Point blank, period. If you are a Christian, if you are a believer, you've acknowledged that you're a sinner. You've acknowledged that you have fallen short and that you need God's own salvation that we cannot do ourselves. The problem psychologically with the LGBT movement is that there is an acceptance of the sin that should bring you to your knees into repentance. Instead, it's celebrated and it's perpetrated as normal, as something that you are born with, as something that you should do. And so what's really happening, if you look behind the scenes from the biblical standpoint, which is what preachers and Christians are supposed to do, this is literally a movement that is birthed from hell. This is literally a movement that is indoctrinating people and celebrating people as they dance on the path to destruction. Our goal is to love them and to show them and to point to them Jesus Christ, no matter what. And you do it in love. You do it in love. But you don't waver. You cannot waver, because what happens is you have a psychological backing, a political backing, a monetary backing that has so much power and influence behind it. It has shifted the entire world, the entire culture. It's shifted everything. And I believe that everyone should have rights. You should not be bullied. You should not be penalized in the context of someone trying to play God or take someone's life or not love their neighbor as their self. So it's applying God's law to everybody. But we also should not have to suffer being bullied or being ostracized or being scrutinized for our own individual beliefs as well. So it's playing a hypocritical, contradictory standpoint. So the LGBT movement wants you to celebrate them, but they don't want to acknowledge the church. They don't want the church to say anything. So you can do anything that you want as long as it doesn't make me feel ashamed. Pride in public equals shame in secret. And what would bring shame except light? Men love darkness rather than light. That's what the word says. And they don't want to acknowledge that they love darkness rather than light. A lot of times there's movements of people who have come out of the LGBT movement that have had psychological issues of things that have happened traumatic in their past, and things where they needed their father. And as a result, they went looking for it in their own way. And it reminds me of that old song where they say they were looking for love in all the wrong places. But the problem here in this day and age is that people are not calling wrong and right, so that they can even have the option to think it. It's just celebrated. And so that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. That's why I feel compelled to do what I do. And I always get emotional when I start to talk, because there's so many of our loved ones that are affected with this. There's so many of our loved ones that, they have some their own personal demons, their own personal temptations. Everyone has temptations. And so it's like acknowledging that you have a temptation, acknowledging that, your flesh dwells no good thing. It helps you understand the fight. Knowing is half the battle. Maybe a person's fleshly struggle or fleshly battle that they have to constantly put on the cross is the lust of the flesh towards homosexuality, or like the pride of life. It's acknowledging and being honest. Here's what it really comes down to as well. Identity. Some people have found their identity in the movement. It's celebrated. It acknowledges it. It feeds into how you have always felt shame and guilt about. And now something is celebrating you, and you have a movement for it. To acknowledge that is sinful almost seems like you're killing yourself or denying yourself or literally doing away with your own identity. And that can seem difficult, because that is exactly what it is. You are denying yourself, you are killing yourself, and you are getting rid of your old identity in order to receive Christ. Jesus said, if you are to be my disciple, you must first deny yourself. You have to relinquish your old identity. It happened to all of the disciples. They left their fishing nets and they followed him. They left their father on the boat and they followed Jesus. Paul left being a scribe and a Pharisee and ascribing to his own righteousness through the law. And Paul left everything. He left everything, and he counted everything as dung to know the excellency that is found in Jesus Christ. There is an excellency if you get past the part that God is asking us to do when we deny ourselves, that you'll discover in Christ. And it is a constant battle. It's a constant fight. But we are victorious by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony. And everything that pertains to life and godliness is supplied through Jesus Christ in his word. He's given it to us. And I'm telling you, it's like we turn it into jars, into vessels that get filled up with God's Holy Spirit when you really mean it. If there's any areas that are like fake, you have to be honest and acknowledge those areas that you are not doing right, or ask the Holy Spirit to show them to you, because sometimes we learn ways from our predecessors or those that we looked up to, our peers, that we might not know is right. It might be displeasing to God or offensive to other people and not beneficial. Like you might cut corners in different places that you have seen people do, and God has to retrain your mind. So we are always in a state of learning, continuously having a state of learning. We're always disciples for God. The second point that I wanted to bring up was about the summer, just the season of the summer and the beginning of the year. We always, all across the board, churches fast. And I love it. I love it. And just getting our minds recalibrated and our spirits inclined to hear from God again. But we should not let that be the only time that we fast. I say that with love, because I noticed every single year in the summer, my flesh rises up. And I need to recalibrate before the summer, or in the summer specifically. Like with vanity, you want to go run, you want to work out, you want to hit the beach. That's all great. But there's things that also are there in the summer that happen. And so I feel like across the board with the hot weather, you have to make sure that you are constantly consecrating and keeping yourself focused on Jesus and focused on the ways of God, because we can get distracted if you're not careful, and we can be as godly and as spiritual as we want, but we are still in the flesh and in the body, and we have to constantly bring the flesh and the body into subjection, because the enemy sometimes can throw you some curveballs that you are not expecting, that you have to recalibrate from, that you weren't looking for it, but you saw it, and then you have to recalibrate because it was distracting. And so keeping yourself in the spirit can help knock those things down. It's a constant battle, a constant ebb and flow, a constant battle. That's the second point that I wanted to emphasize on. The last and final point was about the last days that we're living in. And that's concerning the pandemic, and that people are fear-stricken, and the government is using this opportunity with the fear under the guise of safety to stop the churches from congregating or even worshiping online. This is going on in Australia right now, where you cannot worship, sing songs in person or online. I know these things are supposed to happen, but it's still shocking that these things are taking place, and that whenever you try to go into a form of normalcy with just, your daily routine, there's always something with a current event to remind you that Jesus can come back like a thief in the night at any time, and that you must always be ready. And brothers and sisters, I want you always to pray and to always be ready, and to know that God is on the throne, to know that Jesus Christ has made a place and a home for us with his blood that he shed for us, and that we obtain it, and that we have access to it, and that we can preach the gospel with his authority and his love. Stay in his love, stay in his grace, and be blessed. I love you all with the love of Jesus Christ. Peace.